Now the following movement, the third movement is called March. It's very interesting. Okay, so start with low strings, that rhythm bum, 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 bum.
Something somebody would recognize, very familiar with, you know, something you'd hear at Bizet's Carmen, or a you know, a song just right out of Spain, or yeah, exactly.
And our thought was very almost unnaturally, the Spanish come to the western part of America, and what do? They very abruptly destroy the flow and the lives that that Native Americans experienced, and so there is kind of a all of a sudden, whoa, where are we going with this? Why marcha? Almost as if the Spanish are riding in on their horses, just ready to just to change life, is kind of the programmatic image that we wanted to express.
The movement seems very much out of place with the rest of the piece, and that is the way we feel the Spanish would have been at this, you know, or at least the influx of this new culture. It would have been very much out of place, I think.
I would assume the first trumpet play the theme. Ba-da!
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, here it is.
Symbolic for the Spanish.
Indeed.
It's kind of just their proclamation. The trumpet, what better to proclaim that we're here and we're going to use your territory to trade and to do anything we want, basically. So you're exactly right. That's why the trumpet. What better to say that we're proclaiming the word?
And there was a little bit of imposition of culture here, I think, too, and that's why this third movement is pretty strict to that culture. You know, there isn't a lot of mixing of different sounds. Like all the other movements have mixes of all sorts of different kinds of ideas and ideologies. This is very much more of a strict account of almost just a Spanish culture and the imposition of it.
And the reason why it repeats so often, this pattern, is again the repetitive nature of the trail, and we're doing the same thing over again. And we've got several different melodies and counter melodies that work under that, but we just wanted to think, hey, life on the trail is pretty repetitive, and so let's keep that flow going for the bulk of this third movement. So,
and the most enjoyable with that joyous is the last movement we call celebration. And there's a couple themes. They include the hymn. And like in the very beginning, I just played by the fiddle, we call it fiddle music. So what's the idea to bring you to the ideas for the celebration?
I guess first of all, I think we took some heat for a little while. Not some heat, I should say, but some almost disagreed that what is there to celebrate on the Spanish trail?
That's true. And we did.
And we thought, well, certainly the lives of those that sacrificed to colonize the West is what we want to celebrate. All those that paid the price to essentially be our forefathers here in the Western United States. And so we wanted to celebrate every single culture, both Mexican, American, Western pioneers, Native American, all those together. Even though there's a lot of tragedy, there's still lives and individuals that need to be celebrated, and we want to remember them and what they've done for this. And so that's the idea, I guess, overall as far as why celebration. To celebrate, we kind of do tell a story in the fourth movement, which I think is probably the longest movement.
Yes, indeed,
And Steve, I think this was your idea, Steve, the imagery of the campfire and the beginning.
This is very strong imagery for me, I think.
And I love this. Why don't you explain
absolute dancing.
Yeah, right. We thought, what is it like? What was the pilgrimage to the West like? And we chose the pilgrim culture and the pioneers as kind of our flagship celebration culture, just because I think that's who we're most familiar with, and I think that you know there was the dance element that we could bring in, and even though it's a celebration of all cultures, we chose that as the representative at least. And at the beginning, I pictured everybody is so exhausted from the trail, and you could almost hear just the fatigue and the dusty nature of this fiddle tune. Picture, if you will, a campfire that's been built and everybody's getting their tents ready. It's at the end of the day, and a fiddleist decides, hey, we need a little music at the end of the day.
Yes.
Fiddle was a very, very prominent instrument. In fact, it influenced our culture very much, the Western culture, because of this. And the fiddleist pulls out his fiddle, and this isn't much of a fiddle, it's too big to be one, but because we don't have a fiddle here, and begins to play. And he's standing alone at the campfire, perhaps sitting on a log, whatever it may be. And he plays something like this. That's right. So he keeps playing. And others join around and are there to listen. And so, there's a pleasantness that we intended to be. There's a triumph for the end of the day, you know, in that soaring. But then at the beginning also, there's just, you can almost hear that just higher. Just okay, I think I can play this one more time. And so others start to join, and you hear that. You hear other instruments just simply coming in and enjoying, and they take up the song, and they start celebrating with it.
And then at that point, we thought, what haven't we addressed here in the West? In meeting with the Old Spanish Trail Association, many of them commented that, hey, the West is not just a bunch of desert, mountains, and rocks. There are beautiful trees, beautiful rivers, beautiful... Just the nature is so wonderful, and certainly Western pioneers came through that and would have experienced that. So we wanted, and we felt like the piece needed a little traditional Western, good old Western music. And so, of course,
sagebrush theme.
When you play with in the chord, you use the 5 and the 6, and you use that traditional kind of. We didn't want so much cowboy, but without the jerky dotted eighth note rhythm, we have this type of a thing, and you know, very Western, almost something you'd hear in a very, I don't know, a John Wayne movie. Introduce this theme. Because in orchestrating, we decided, well, if the strings are taking it, then we can echo with the French horn.
Yeah.
We kind of play off each other a little bit on that, which made it a fun element of the piece. We needed it.
That definitely is the imagery we see there is the enjoyment of the surroundings and how beautiful the West really is. And the mountains and the rivers and the trees and even just down to the smallest stream is just absolutely beautiful. And so that's the rolling melody of just, this is wonderful, you know, and riding in a wagon perhaps across the West.
Absolutely.